Hey, what is up, everybody? Reubin here. My name's Reubin, and welcome to This My Soul. Now, this is a short visual novel about basically being saved in space. We have requested the assistance of, people because some shit has gone down, and an artificial AI unit has come to our rescue. Now, as far as I'm aware, it's a 3 month journey back home, so we need to try and survive or live or get to know this AI unit and basically find out and progress the story from there. Now, I enjoy these short visual novels. They normally pack quite a punch, they normally have a lot of interesting topics to them. So, we're going to jump straight in and have a look just what this My Soul has to offer. Okay, so you awake to a tingling sensation all over your skin. Something is wrong. There is liquid inside your mouth, in your lungs. Before the thought even fully forms, you are spitting and gagging, expelling the fluid in a great, desperate heaves. Okay, like that. Whatever it is, you eventually hack up the rest, and not that it improves your situation much. Your surroundings are black as pitch, and you are too disoriented to figure out whether your eyes are open or not. Black as pitch. So it's black as pitch, not pitch black. There is no clear sense of up or down, and where you try to move your limbs, they fail to respond. You chase the seam of your lips instinctively with your tongue, frustrated and forgetting to avoid the remnants of the fluid you cough up earlier. Disgusting. Despite it, you feel as if you hadn't had anything to drink in years. You collect your strength just enough to cry out for help or attempt to sit up and orientate yourself. Attempt to sit up and orientate yourself. It takes a moment to mentally fortify yourself, and while you wait, you give your fingers an experimental twitch. You are laying in some kind of on some kind of hard surface. Intrigued, you try to wiggle your legs out to the side experimentally, only to realize that they won't budge. Your arms and legs are strapped in place by thick metal restraints. A table of some kind, then. Driven by this alarming discovery, you instinctively arch your back, trying to wiggle loose. To your mounting dismay, you find that you've been shackled by the waist as well. What the hell is going on here? The darkness around you is absolute. You keep waiting for your eyes to adjust, but there is no additional details to take in. The chamber around you is small and a little cold. With effort, you lay back down and try to calm yourself as you consider what to do next. Or the space is terrifying. You feel yourself slide into panic. Tears welling in your eyes and the sensation of being trapped and helpless. I am no baby. I am no little girl. So we are going to say that the room is small and a little cold. But with effort, you lay back down and try to calm yourself as you consider what to do next. Before you can do anything else, a series of electronic bleeps signal that someone is standing directly outside of your chamber. Light spills in from top of it, just above your head. You get the fleeting impression that you've been contained in a cylindrical pod of some kind before the light blinds you. Please remain calm. I will release your restraints momentarily and increase the gravity by 12%. It's too quiet to fully make out, but the voice sounds male. Before your vision has fully adjusted, you feel the pressure of something being withdrawn from your limbs. With the softest whir of shifting gears, you are free. Cautiously, you open your watering eyes, but you still can't see anything beyond the halo of white light above. Your body floats gently downward as gravity increases, drifting until your toes touch on cool metal. Luckily, the shift is low, or you would have found yourself lying on the ground in a heap. As it is, you manage to get both feet beneath you before gravity increases again, giving you some time to remember how to support your own body weight. Please raise both arms up and prepare yourself to be lifted. You aren't sure what to expect, but immediately after carrying out their instructions, you are hauled out of your pod by a pair of strong, masculine arms. Your vision goes white once again, possibly in response to the more powerful shift in gravity. It will take a moment to climb down. Please do not struggle. Your rescuer's voice is cool, impersonal, monotone. It doesn't take the return of your sight to finally recognize him for what he is, an android. When he comes into focus, you see that he is a living artificial synthesoid, model 51 to be exact. We both feel safe, with both feet safely on the ground now. You're finally able to get a good look at him. He possessed the distinct facial features and lithe build of the LAS brand. They are the only laborer class models, to your knowledge, that have such elegant, handsome features. Built to please is the company motto. Ooh. That being said, he looks bizarrely colorless. Most androids are given natural coloring during production to prevent them from seeming too uncanny, but this one is pale as a sheet with icy blue eyes and lips to match. We must ensure that your cognitive functions were not impaired during the accident, miss. Please answer the following questions to the best of your ability. Are you in any pain? No. You are fairly certain of this front, at least, though the mention of an accident is worrying. Please spell your first name. Simple enough. Please spell. Okay, so I can actually. Okay, so I need to. I'm a girl. When I. Jeez. I am terribly bad when it comes to naming myself. Why couldn't we just go with. Oh shit, and I can't even press this Control Z. Leanne. We'll go with Leanne. He nods, acknowledging your answer. What was your occupation aboard the SS Spirit? Okay, so I was a mechanical engineer. I helped take care of any malfunctioning hardware on board the ship. I was a journalist hired on last minute to write the story about the mission. Medical officer, the health and welfare of the ship's passengers is my responsibility. I was the ship's archivist. Anything that required a log, any kind, had to go through me before it reached the databases. I was the ship cartographer. There has to be one on board every mission in case the navigational system goes down. I like the idea of her being a medical officer, obviously putting the health and welfare of the ship's passengers before her own, and that was her responsibility. So we're going to go with medical officer. Admitting it aloud, you suppose you should have realized that you were in a cryogenic pod earlier, but console yourself with the reminder that it is very old model, definitely nothing like the ones you use in your work. That said, you're surprised to see the pod sitting by itself with no other medical staff or equipment in sight. Where are all the people? I see. Very well then. Do you recall what happened when your ship was destroyed? You suck a surprised breath in through your teeth. The ship was destroyed. When our mission took us to the remains of the Nabuahirium space station to investigate what happened to them, our flight path brought us too close to the wreckage. Nearly 5,000 souls had been lost, and after the initial rescue crews had determined there was no one left to save, your ship was dispatched to investigate the root cause of the tragedy, only to fall victim to a similar incident, it would seem. The android hesitates in a very human way for a moment before continuing. I do not have sufficient data to say for certain, but it is my belief that our ship's hull was breached by some form of undetectable debris. That shouldn't be possible. What kind of debris wouldn't show up on our sensors? Or it could have been an attack, could it? I mean, we should have been able to detect anything threatening nearby. True. I mean, if you are at the point where you are living in a spaceship, basically being able to travel millions of light years, you normally have some kind of either force field or protective layer or sheet around your system to prevent from debris and other space dust and debris and foreign things, if you want to call it that. So you shouldn't be able to get through, and any kind of debris shouldn't be able to actually get through. What I would be guessing is the shields, but there is that possibility. So that shouldn't be. What kind of debris wouldn't show up on our sensors? As I said, I do not have all the facts, but I believe that the accident was most likely caused by simple human error, rather than by any failing in our sensory equipment. In my time aboard the Spirit, I witnessed human crew members ignore standard safety protocol over 224 times over the course of 6 months. Many of those oversights occurred in the engineering and navigation departments, despite access to superior fully functional equipment. So it stands to reason that an error was made by the mishandling or misinterpretation of data by a human. Not out of respect for your feelings, and certainly not out of respect for your dead. He's simply presenting his hypothesis in the most direct, logical manner he can, as he is most likely been programmed to do. It's hard not to take offense to the careless words, but regardless of how it happened, the result is that it was a breach. The impact completely destroyed one engine and damaged another to the point that it became unstable. As you are aware, the sole occupant of a flight deck 9, apart from yourself, I was unable to get anyone else to safety before the second engine imploded. His eyebrows furrowed just a fraction at what is clearly an unpleasant memory. On a human, the expression would look only mildly protruded, but it is actually pretty emotive for an android. We were just able to clear the blast radius in time, but the explosion drive course sent out a shockwave that rendered you unconscious. Try as you might, you can't remember much of this. If you concentrate, you get the fleeting impressions of being carried across a flight deck by someone with strong, solid arms. But that's it. There is no face to go along with the memory, no context, just the feeling of being carried and a strong sense of fear. In fact, you might have been suspicious of his story had he been a human. An android, however, would have no reason to lie, and certainly couldn't have actively endangered you. So I managed to get you into the small maintenance craft just before the second engine's eruption caused the third and fourth drive cores to reach critical points as well. We escaped, and I believe that we are the only ones to do so. This announcement leaves you feeling numb with shock. All those people gone in the span of minutes, and most of them had been people you knew. The LAS Model 51 finishes his report calmly. It is fortuitous that I already possessed knowledge of the shuttle in my database. I had just enough time to stabilize you before getting you into the cryogenic chamber for the beginning of our journey. Okay, so I've been asleep this whole time. How long have I been out? You checked me for brain trauma. Then it's risky to put injured people in cryopods. Alright, so we're on the ship, now what? I doubt I have enough supplies to make it all the way back home. Okay, so we don't have to worry about supplies and that kind of stuff, obviously, for the android, as he's artificial intelligence. So we don't have to worry about feeding him or water or oxygen for him specifically. But for myself, I will obviously need that. And I don't know how much supplies would be on this escape pod, I'm guessing. And okay, so then we've got two things. Now, as a medical doctor, I would obviously be concerned about the brain trauma then, because obviously it is risky to put injured people into the cryopods. And I'm not really going to be concerned about sleeping this whole time because, well, I was in a cryogenic chamber, so obviously I was out. So let's actually go with you. Check me for a brain trauma then, right? It's risky to put injured people in cryopods. Of course. We had no extra capabilities on the craft, but I was able to use a combination of touch and unfed vision to detect what level of swelling your brain was under. There was no significant cause for concern. If you did possess a more severe, undetectable injury, you likely would have died regardless of whether I put you in the cryogenic chamber or not. Therefore, I deemed it prudent to place you there for the first leg of the journey, regardless. He speaks of your possible death with such nonchalance. So we're a month and a half into traveling, and we've already completed the first leg of the journey. Where are we going? Using this vessel's rudimentary navigational systems, I was able to chart a course for the nearest inhabitable planet. Amalthea is only 2 months and 24 days from here. Unfortunately, your pod is an older model and not suitable for any kind of extended use. He shifts, looking almost uncomfortable. In fact, we may have already stretched beyond its limited capabilities by keeping you in cryo-sleep as long as we did. There was no timer set when you entered, so I had to wake you up manually to prevent any malfunctions or loss of life support. That, combined with your physical state before going in, is likely why you're waking up was so unpleasant for you. I will need to reconfigure it carefully if you are too used to it for the remainder of the flight. Okay, so do I have to go back under? Coming out for the first time was bad enough, or how are our rations? Do I have enough to last through the next 3 months if push comes to shove? This craft is only stocked with enough emergency rations for 1 month, but as maintenance crews are often made up of 4 or 5 personnel, there should be more than enough just for you. However, there is still a risk that our flight path could be interrupted, or that we might not receive immediate assistance upon landing. Amalthea is a sparsely populated planet due to its harsh environment, and the communication devices we have on board are somewhat outdated. It would be best to mitigate those risks by placing you back into cryogenic sleep for at least part of the journey. You feel your face betray some sort of your anxiety at the thought of going back into the pod, and to your surprise, the android actually seems to pick up on it. He hesitates before slowly adding, "If we're unsure that your physical health is up to standard before putting you under again, your waking should not be nearly as traumatic next time. How do your limbs feel? Can you walk?" You test out your legs first, a little wobbly but functional. Seeing that you are all right, he places one hand on your elbow to help lead you from the cryo chamber. Allow me to show you around the craft, Miss Leanne. He leads you into a long hall, a flight deck that appeared to stretch the entire length of the craft. There are several doors along the hall, all closed, and the android points each one out to you in turn. The shuttle was used by the maintenance crews whenever they needed to operate independently of the main ship. For the convenience of the crew and to prevent them from wasting fuel flying back and forth to the main ship, it was outfitted with functional living quarters. They are quite minimal, however, as I am sure you'll see. He points out the door at the end of the bridge towards what you guess is the nose of the shuttle. The navigation room is down that way. He nods his head in the opposite direction at the door you just emerged from. The cryogenic chamber and the engines are both in there. The room and the navigation room are both sealed by a keypad that only a member of the crew may unlock. It would be pointless for you to try and enter. There is a blandness to this voice that manages to keep his statement from sounding too condescending. Still, you find yourself frowning a bit as he leads you further down the hall. Over here is the small fitness center we have on board for the crew to combat the effect of zero gravity whenever that becomes a concern. We have sufficient gravity controls engaged at the moment, but I believe we still use the facilities to strengthen your body for transport back into the cryo chamber. Before you can examine the room, he leads you on to the next. The muscles on your legs twinge uncomfortably, and your companion takes notice, adjusting his hold on your elbow so that he can support more of your weight. The food dispensary is here, and next to it, the crew members' bunks. You find yourself breathing hard, even though you've barely exerted yourself since waking up. It's a struggle to get inside the cabin, but the android compensates for your clumsiness, practically carrying you the remainder of the way to your bunk. It isn't the fanciest of accommodations. You would have even called it as comfortable looking as the average escape pod. But the feel of a relatively soft mattress beneath you is enough to make you want to drop off to sleep immediately. And as is sensing your desire, the android obligingly bends to remove the boots from your feet. Funny, you hadn't noticed your clothing before this moment, but you aren't wearing your usual uniform. Instead, you wear the human variant of the LAS model's maintenance uniform. Did you change my clothes? He nods, looking completely unconcerned. Your clothing was soiled in our escape, and I determined you should be as clean as possible before entering the chamber. I bathed you as well. This piece of news is almost enough to have you jolt out of your bunk despite your fatigue, but exhaustion creeps quickly over your body now that you're prone. What does it matter? Your sleepy mind argues gently. He's just an android. You might have continued to debate with yourself longer, if not for your eyes slowly closing against your own will. The last thing you are aware before falling into a deep, dreamless slumber is the feel of the android dutifully draping a blanket over you. This concludes the short demo of This Is My Soul. Thanks for playing, and we hope you download the full version of the game on the April 14th. So that actually means that this game has fully released. However, it just means that I downloaded this game before the full version actually released. But that story actually sucks you in so well. Now, I can only guess and I can only assume where the story is going to head. For some unknown reason, I think that you as the character, as that girl, are going to end up falling in love with this android, or that the android is somehow going to end up betraying you. I could be very wrong. I could be perfectly on point. I suppose I'll have to find out and see what the rest of the story actually has to offer. I do really hope you guys enjoyed that as much as I enjoyed going through it. Once again, I love visual novels. The stories they tell are usually very good, and the amount of thought put into these stories is normally quite a bit, so it doesn't ever feel empty. Now, if you guys enjoyed that, by all means, leave a like, subscribe, and I will see all of you in my next video. But obviously, until then, cheers.